Welcome to my Perfectionism Series. Today we're talking about the overdoing to bitterness pipeline. Now, this type of perfectionist is doing everything for love, affection, and approval from other people. Now, even if you think that you are a generally nice and giving and helpful person who likes to support other people, there's a little bit of bitterness that is at the core of that. So what that looks like is that you're always overextending yourself. You know, if somebody needs help, you're there. If somebody needs problem solving, you're trying to solve the problem. If somebody needs you to cover this shift, you got it. You know, if somebody needs you to pick this up, you low-key do everything for every single person. But at the end of the day, there's a little bit of you that is neglecting yourself as well. And deep down inside, you kind of have this subconscious belief that if you didn't do all these things and if you didn't overextend yourself, that somebody's not going to like you anymore. They're going to break up with you. They're not going to be your friend anymore. You're not going to be valuable to them. You're not going to be useful to them. All of these different thoughts, whether it's true or not, it starts to be incorporated in the way that you think, the way that you show up, and the way that you behave. So a key factor of this overdoing to bitterness pipeline is that there's a very low sense of worth inside. You almost feel like you're not worthy enough to be cared for or loved or be a friend to or fill in the blank. And so that's why you do all these actions in order to kind of mitigate that. And when you have a low sense of self or a lack of self-esteem, a lack of self-love for you, you are willing to kind of, get your boundaries violated. You're willing to burn yourself out. You're willing to neglect your own needs for the sake of other people in a way that doesn't necessarily translate for the greater good. Oftentimes, this type of perfectionist will also say that they're an empath. They're absorbing other people's energy. They're always predicting other people's needs. They're problem solving things before it actually happens. And even though those things can be great qualities, it also loops back to this concept of lack of self. You don't actually know what you need. You don't actually know what your boundaries are. You don't actually understand the type of energy that you're requiring in order to fulfill yourself, in order for you to be grounded, in order for you to actually take care of yourself from an energetic level. So when you're in the overdoing to bitterness pipeline, this bitterness starts to show up as anger. It starts to show up as sadness. It can start to show up as grief because there's an inner understanding that no matter how many actions and activity you do for other people, it's not necessarily replicated in the way that you want it to be replicated in your own life. You're doing it for other people, but even if you're saying like, oh, I'm just doing this from the kindness of my heart, or I don't want somebody to also do this for me, I'm just doing this to be nice, low-key, that's not true. You're wanting somebody to also be there for you, to also show up for you, to also go out of their way, to also fill in the blank, right? And even if you don't admit that, even if, like from your mouth, you can't really say that, deep in your heart, you know that's true. So the bitterness starts to build and build and build to the point where your actions start to feel forced. It's like, okay, well, I'll just do it because that's just what I'm used to, or I'm just going to do it because okay, I'm just, that's just part of my routine. But you don't really know how to draw the boundaries that's going to protect you from your own needs versus what it is that you do for other people. And if you're only ever doing things for other people and never for yourself, don't you think that's going to catch up? Don't you think that bitterness is going to prevent you from connecting to your creativity, connecting to your intuition, connecting to your boundaries, connecting to your own alignment, connecting to your flow? Of course it is. So a key part of avoiding this bitterness pipeline is to actually come back to your sense of self. And for folks who are on this pipeline, that feels like a very selfish concept for you to think about yourself rather than, all the people that you want to think about. Like, what about them? What about them? What about them? Like, yes, them too, but also you too. And so this concept becomes really important for this overdoing to bitterness pipeline. And if you are wanting to heal through perfectionism, come through to Imperfect, which is a 6-week perfectionism mentorship. We're working through the 4 perfectionism archetypes, which all requires a different pathway to healing. So if you are on this overdoing to bitterness pipeline, you are that people pleaser, this is going to be supportive for you to come. Now, if you are interested and want more information, head to www.alwaysplay.org/imperfect. IMPERFECT. I'll see you in there.